On today's show, the Cleveland Cavaliers find a way to bounce back with a win over the New Orleans Pelicans. Jerome had a big part in it with a career night. Plus, Jaylen Tyson got some burn for the first time. We'll talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my new Substack, The Inside Shot, 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, be a friend, tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. The show is also available on YouTube. If you're watching this video right now, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show, of course, is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, do need to let you know that the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Cavs newsletter. So the Cavs get a 128-100 win on Wednesday night at home over the New Orleans Pelicans. Jerome was the biggest story from this game. And this has been a recurring theme of the Cavs season so far. Ty was awesome on Wednesday night. He's been awesome for the vast majority of this season. There's like one or two games that you can pick out and say, Ty wasn't very good tonight. It's just not been a thing. He's been awesome for the Cavs. Tonight was a career night. But how many times have I gotten on this show and came out and said that? Like, it feels like Ty has had 5 or 6 career nights so far this season in 17 games for the Cavs. He was the guy that entered this season, and I think the Cavs were higher on him internally than certainly I was, and I think a lot of people on the outside were, mostly because we hadn't seen Ty Jerome play basketball in a long time. He played 15 minutes last year. We didn't know what to think. I sort of had him slotted in as like a fringe rotation guy, that there'd be some nights he would play, some nights he wouldn't play. And he's become indispensable. Like, he is a very big, very important part of the Cavs blueprint for winning basketball games. Because on a night like Wednesday, when Darius Garland doesn't play, he's out with a groin injury. I think that's more of a wear and tear type of thing than anything that should be considered serious or anything to worry about. I think that this was a way for the Cavs to get him some solid rest with a few off days coming up, but Ty Jerome can just slide right in and have a great night. He had 20 points in the second quarter. He hit 6 3-pointers in the second quarter. It was the best game that he's played in his career. I said that once last week. I think I said it the week before too. Ty Jerome has been so good for the Cavs. He's been somebody that I didn't know what to expect. And now he's somebody that not only do they rely upon, but he is somebody that I can't kind of picture what this season would look like if Ty Jerome were not on the roster. The Cavs would still obviously be a very good team, but if they didn't have him, they definitely have a few more losses. And I don't think that this is a game that the Cavs would have lost without Ty Jerome by any stretch of the imagination, because the Pelicans were without so many key players. But it's hard not to watch that game on Wednesday night and be anything other than super impressed with what we saw from Ty. It was almost, and I don't know what Ty's high school stats looked like because he's an NBA player. I just assume everyone that's in the NBA had really good stats in high school. But I only found one game in college when he was at UVA that he had better stats in terms of scoring than he did on Wednesday night. He had 29 points. His previous career high was 24, which came last week, Sunday, I think it was, actually, against Charlotte. He just keeps having career nights. He keeps impressing. He keeps improving. And I know Kobe Altman said prior to the season that he had been the, quote, MVP of September. And that was kind of a quote that I think got some chuckles. And just because we didn't know what to expect, and on the roster with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and all these super talented guys, how could the 10th or 11th or maybe even 12th at the time guy on the roster be the MVP of the team? And I don't even think that the Cavs internally expected him to be as good as he's been for this team. That is one of the things that I asked Kenny Atkinson after this game, just that they didn't, just how much better has he been than what they expected him to be. And Kenny pointed to the scoring aspect, that he didn't think Ty necessarily had this type of scoring output in him and Kenny has spent a lot of time around Ty because those two were together in Golden State when Kenny was an assistant and Ty was a member of the Warriors. But he didn't have this score first mentality that he has right now. I think he's always been a good basketball player, but he has leveled his game up to a place that I didn't necessarily think he would get to. And I don't think that people inside that organization thought he would get to this particular spot. Like he's somebody that I do think we have to start considering seriously as sixth man of the year. He's been that good. And for the Cavs to have that sort of depth on their roster to where if Donovan misses a night the way he did on Sunday, that was the first game he missed, didn't play against Charlotte. What does Ty Jerome do? Oh, he just goes out and ties his career high. And then Darius Garland misses tonight. What does Ty Jerome do? Oh, he just goes out and has a 20-point second quarter. Like that is absolutely everything to the Cavs. And like I said, the Pelicans were not necessarily a real threat to win this game, but Ty Jerome made sure of that. Like it wasn't a blowout after the first quarter. Now the Cavs were winning, but it wasn't some blowout. And then Ty Jerome just erupted in the second quarter. It was the best quarter of his life. And to see that, especially coming from a non-superstar player, right? Like we've seen guys get hot. We've seen, especially Donovan, get hot at times. Darius, it's happened to a lot of really, really good players, especially guards. But to see Ty do that and the entire arena kind of wanting him to shoot every time he touches the ball, and he's taking heat checks and making them over and over again, it was one of the more impressive performances I've ever seen, certainly from a role player. And I do think that this is something that's really important to the Cavs, that they know they can turn to him, that they can trust him to show up every night and do his job and to play and to step up when he needs to, because that's the other thing too. This roster is not going to stay healthy all year. I think that there's going to be good health all year. I certainly hope for that. You never want to see anybody get hurt. But I do think that if something goes wrong, they can look at this and say, you know what, we don't have to worry because Ty's got us covered. And I think that's a really, really healthy place to be from a roster standpoint. And on another note, it is really cool to see Ty have this type of success after the season he had last year, where he played 15 minutes in two games, had that ankle injury, missed basically the entire season. For him to do that and then come back this year and just have, and we're 17 games in. So I don't want to overreact to this, but to come back in and just have the start to an incredible season for him. I think it's a really cool thing. I think it's a really, really cool story. And it's been something that has helped the Cavs a ton. Watching him on Wednesday night was awesome. I mean, he's been awesome to watch almost every single game the Cavs have played this season. And I do think that while he's not going to be on the short list for team MVP or anything like that, he's become somebody that's indispensable. He's become a very big part of this team, even if he's never going to lead the team in minutes. And, I don't know exactly where he is right now in minutes. Last time I checked, he was around 10th. But he's going to have an impact every time he steps on the floor. And to get that from your basically fourth guard behind Donovan, Darius, and Karras, that's a really, really healthy place to be from a roster standpoint. And I do think that that's part of the reason why we should believe in the Cavs in the playoffs, because if Ty Jerome's going to be able to play so many minutes, that just means Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, everyone's going to be fresher when we get to April, May, and potentially June with this team. So what he's providing is vital to the Cavs' success. I didn't think I'd be saying those words a month ago. I mean, we are a month into the season now. Ty Jerome has been nothing but awesome. I think the fans too. It's been really cool to see the fans embrace him in Cleveland, where he entered this season as an unknown. I think before this season, he could have walked down the street in Cleveland and a lot of people would not have known who he was. They would have looked at him and go, oh, that guy's kind of tall because he's 6'5". And now everyone in Cleveland, it feels like, knows who Ty Jerome is. Like, his jersey is selling like crazy in the team shop right now because he's become that popular in Cleveland because he's been that good for the Cavs. And it's been a really cool story to cover. And I think it's been a big reason why the Cavs have been so good is because they're so deep. And I don't think that anyone embodies the depth that the Cavs have right now better than Ty Jerome does. I thought the way the Cavs responded to their loss in Boston on Tuesday night with the performance they had on Wednesday night was really, really important. And I'll tell you why next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is my go-to ticket marketplace. Game Time should be your go-to ticket marketplace. Maybe you want to go to a Cavs game soon. They are, after all, the best team in the NBA. They have a lot of home games coming up. Up next Sunday, Toronto. Atlanta is here soon. Boston is coming to town very soon. If you're going to want to be in the building for those, Game Time is going to be the place that you want to go. Why should you choose Game Time? You should choose Game Time because they take the guesswork out of buying tickets. One of the things that they do that I really like, I can toggle on the all-in pricing feature. And then I'm not surprised with taxes, with fees, with all of this other stuff at the final stage when it's finally time to pay. I'm not surprised. I know exactly what it's going to cost to get me in the building. And that's what I care about throughout the ticket buying process. I also want to know, how good is my seat going to be? What's my view of center court going to be if it's a game or the 50-yard line? Maybe if you're going to the Browns game, if you want to go to the Browns game tonight, last minute, Game Time, the place to go. They're going to have great deals. If you want to, maybe sit through some inclement weather watching a bad football team, Game Time's probably going to have some pretty good deals on tickets for that Thursday night game. But they'll show you what your view from your seat will look like because no one wants to sit in a bad seat. Everyone wants good seats. Well, Game Time ensures that's the case by showing you what your view is. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating and be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. I want you to have the best Cavs content. I want your friends to have the best Cavs content. And you're watching on YouTube right now, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest content from Locked On Cavs. So I thought that the way the Cavs looked on Wednesday night was really important. I thought going into this game that they would win, but I thought it mattered how they looked in winning. Because if you caught a glimpse of the New Orleans injury report before this game, it was incredibly lengthy. Essentially, 9 of their top 10 players didn't play in this game. There's no Brandon Ingram, no Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, DeJounte Murray, like just the list went on and on and on and on of guys that weren't playing for the Pelicans in this game. So the Cavs were obviously a team that, despite being, and both teams were on the second night of a back-to-back too. I should note that the Cavs played in Boston last night or Tuesday night, I should say. The Pelicans played in Dallas. Like, that's a really rough back-to-back for New Orleans, having to go from Dallas to Cleveland. And that Dallas game had a later starting time than the Cavs game did too. So that's another thing to factor in here. The Pelicans had a really rough draw having to come to Cleveland on Wednesday night. But this was a game that I don't think I would have felt nearly as good about if it were close in the second half. I thought it was really important that the Cavs respond to really their first taste of true disappointment, because they haven't played great in every game, and no team ever plays great in every game. But up until Tuesday night, they had won every game. So while, yeah, you can want to fix things and you can learn in wins, it's, I think, kind of hard to manufacture disappointment. And yeah, there might be things that haven't looked great at all times during the winning streak, but it's hard to truly be disappointed until you actually lose. Well, the Cavs actually lost on Tuesday. So what I was fascinated to see How were they going to respond to that loss? And I thought they responded in the perfect way, because this was a game that once the second quarter hit was never really close. Now, I think defensively they got a little bit sloppy in that first half. And part of that was, I think everyone just wanted to see Ty Jerome shoot. Like, I do think that was part of why they struggled defensively, primarily in that second quarter. And then in the third quarter, they came out awesome defensively. They were fantastic. And I'm not going to put a ton of stock in how good the defense was, because they were not defending against really, really, really good NBA players. It was not the Pelicans' best. But because of that, it can be easy to fall into a trap in these games. And Kenny Atkinson actually spoke about it. And I think he didn't say this, but I have a good guess as to what game comes to mind when Kenny said, he was nervous about this game because it's really easy, essentially, to overlook a team that doesn't have its best players. It's easy to not give your best effort and to I guess, borrow something from JB Bickerstaff, who previously was the head coach of the Cavs. It's easy in this instance to not respect the game. And the game that I would have to guess pops into Kenny's mind when it is this type of situation is a Cavs game. It was a Cavs-Warriors game in the 2022-2023 season. The Warriors, Kenny Atkinson was on the staff in Golden State. And the Warriors played in Boston the night before. Cleveland was the second night of a back-to-back for them. They sat Steph, they sat Clay, they sat Draymond, they sat, I believe, Andrew Wiggins didn't play. It was basically the Santa Cruz Warriors were playing in that game. Ty Jerome started that game for Golden State, I believe. And that was, up until a couple of weeks ago, the best game of Ty Jerome's career. But that was a game the Cavs were fully healthy. They were well rested. Golden State did not play any of its stars, came into Cleveland on the second night of a back-to-back and won that game. And it was one of the most, that was when JB Bickerstaff did say, we did not respect the game. And I think that pops into Kenny's mind, because it's really easy to take a team that has no business winning a game. Let's be honest. The Pelicans had no business winning the game on Wednesday night against the Cavs. It's easy to take that team lightly and to not respect the game. But the Cavs came out and they did what they were supposed to do. They handled business. I thought it was a great show of the maturity of this team. I thought it was really, really good to see them just say, you know what? Yeah, last night was disappointing. The winning streak is gone. We're now 15-1, which is still a really great place to be, obviously. But instead of letting that loss linger, especially coming off of an emotional night, a very hard-fought night, a night where a lot of starters played a ton of minutes, like Donovan Mitchell had 40 minutes for the first time all season on Tuesday night. Coming off of that and being able to put it in the rear view and focus on Wednesday night, especially with a handful of players out. There was no Darius Garland, no Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro, Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, Max Strus. All those guys were out. To come out and focus and take the game seriously and make sure that it was not a true game in the second half was a really important thing for the Cavs to do. I also thought another important thing that the Cavs did was make sure Evan Mobley felt like he was involved early on. One of the things that Kenny talked about before the game was the lack of Evan's involvement offensively in the fourth quarter against Boston. He was dominant in that third quarter. He was a big reason why the Cavs came back in that game from such a huge halftime deficit. And then in the fourth quarter on Tuesday night, he didn't take a single shot. And that was a problem. And Kenny said, that Kenny took the blame for that. He said he needs to be better about making sure that the offense goes through Evan when it's appropriate to do so. So in the first quarter, of course, on Wednesday night, Evan led the team in shot attempts. Now, I didn't think he looked great. He looked like a guy who played 38 minutes the night before. It was the second night of back-to-back. But I thought that even though he didn't look great, it was important to send that message to Evan and to the team about how important he is offensively and how when nights like that happen, everybody needs to be better about making sure that the ball is in Evan Mobley's hands. It was not a coincidence that the first play of the game was run for Evan Mobley. That was not a coincidence whatsoever. It was not a coincidence that Evan Mobley, like I said, led the team in shots in the first quarter. That was something that Kenny Atkinson made sure happened on purpose. It was not necessarily a strategic decision for Wednesday night against the Pelicans. That was a strategic decision for the makeup of this team. And I thought sending that message was the right thing to do. And no one's going to be perfect. And Kenny Atkinson is going to have games where he doesn't have his best stuff as a coach. There are going to be games where all the players don't have their best stuff as players. But for me, especially at this point in the season, I kind of think it's all about how do you respond to it. And from the way the Cavs played overall, I think coaching response that Kenny had with Evan Mobley, thought all that stuff was very, very important. And I thought the Cavs passed that with flying colors. There was another guy who got his first real opportunity on Wednesday night. That's Jaylen Tyson. I thought he passed with flying colors too. We'll talk about him next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Chime. We have all hit a point where we realize it's time to make some serious money moves. Well, you can take control of your finances by using a Chime checking account with features like no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. You can learn more at chime.com/NBA. Chime helps you make progress with, like I said, fee-free overdraft up to $200. Your next deposit is then applied to your balance. Get spotted on debit and credit card purchases with cash withdrawals. No monthly fees, no maintenance fees, and over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. Eligible members get complimentary boosts to temporarily increase a friend's Spot Me limit as well. When you give a boost, they can boost you back to temporarily raise your limit. So here's how it works. Set up direct deposit in your Chime account, and after a qualifying direct deposit of $200 or more, Chime will notify you to enroll in Spot Me. With then an activated debit card, Chime will spot you up to $200 when you exceed your balance. Your next direct deposit is then applied to your negative balance, and Chime never charges fees or interest for using Spot Me. So make your fall finances a little greener by working towards your financial goals with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That's chime.com/NBA. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank NA or Stride Bank NA, members FDIC. Spot Me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in Spot Me and are subject to monthly limits. Terms and conditions apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, and be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed and make sure a friend is subscribed as well. Jaylen Tyson got his first start in the NBA on Wednesday night, and I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he came out, and I did think one of the keys to this game early on, because this was a game that I thought was going to lack energy, and in some stretches it did. But I thought giving Jaylen the start was a really smart move by this coaching staff. And I say the coaching staff and not just Kenny Atkinson, because he credited his assistants for putting Jaylen in that position. And the reasoning behind it was this is going to be his first big boy minutes. And putting him with players that have played significant minutes, that are important players in the NBA, is going to make that easier for him. So Jaylen Tyson starting the game alongside Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, Ty Jerome, that makes that transition easier for him than if he's coming off the bench playing with bench lineups that maybe he does have more time playing with in practice. Not that the Cavs really have practiced yet, but playing with guys that are going to draw so much more attention than he is, I think did take some of the pressure off. There's no doubting that in that first 5 the Cavs started, Jaylen Tyson's going to be the guy getting the least amount of attention from the opposing defenses. But I thought he looked good. I thought he was aggressive. I thought he played with energy. It was really cool too. in his first real significant actual NBA action to finish the night with a double-double. I thought that was a really cool thing. I think that's something he's going to remember forever. And being able to do that and playing as well as he did, I don't know how Kenny Atkinson can find minutes for him. Like right now, when the Cavs are fully healthy, I think he's the 12th guy, and you can't play 12 guys. I think Kenny might have trouble playing 11 when Max Strus comes back. But I do think that he does have a bright future as an NBA player. And I thought that this was a glimpse into it. Now, the other thing I will say about Jaylen is whenever you talk to somebody with the Cavs, the first thing they bring up about Jaylen is how hard he works. And routinely when we're let in at shoot around, when they're done and guys are still getting shots up, Jaylen is always one of the last ones to leave the floor. He's the ultimate first guy in, last guy out. I talked to somebody who mentioned, someone joked with him, it's like, you might as well just put a bed in the facility because he is there all the time. He wants to get better. His work ethic is awesome. And it might not be something that provides true dividends for the Cavs this season, but I do think for the future of this roster, for the Cavs to be as good as they are right now and continue to be at that level, I think it's really, really, really important. Jaylen Tyson is going to be good. That is something that needs to happen for the Cavs to stay as competitive, because you know what you're going to have with the core four. But this is a roster that I think it might be hard to retain a couple guys after this season. Jaylen Tyson can slide into those roles, at least one of those roles. And doing that can be paramount to keeping just the depth that the Cavs have right now, because that is part of their secret. They have a lot of really good players. If Jaylen Tyson, maybe it's not this year, maybe it's by the end of this year, I don't know. But if by next year he can be one of those really good players, the Cavs are going to be better for it. One last thing before we get out of here today. So the Cavs now don't play till Sunday. That is, I think, a huge breath of fresh air for this organization. They've now played 17 games in their first 29 days of the season. It's been a brutal stretch. This was their fourth back-to-back. This was their, I believe, seventh instance of playing 3 games in 4 nights. That's a really tough place to be. Kenny, after the game, said that the team's going to be totally and completely off for the next 2 days. So they won't practice on Thursday. They won't practice on Friday. They will reconvene for practice on Saturday. I would expect when the team gets back on the floor Sunday for game action, when Toronto is in town, I would expect that we see a much more rested and refreshed Cavs team. I think that this team, I don't want to say hit a wall, because they're 16-1, and that's not, I don't think that's accurate, but I think they're really tired. And I think everybody in that locker room, I think the coaching staff, I think everybody organizationally is really looking forward to catching their breath for a couple of days. And I do think that we will see a rejuvenated Cavs team, if you will, when they get back in action on Sunday at home against Toronto. But once again, thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Also, make sure you guys go check out the Inside Shot. I've been writing about this team after every single game. I will be doing more big picture stuff now that they don't play every other day, or I guess more than every other day, which has been the first month of the season. But you can check that out. The link is in the episode description on your podcast platforms, also in the description on YouTube. So go give that a look if you're looking for even more Cavs content. But I will be back again tomorrow talking about, once again, the team with the best record in the NBA.